Hi there, this is David and welcome to my rankings of the characters in Final Fantasy IV. I've played through the game countless times since getting it at 9 years old, and I thought that it might be fun to rank all the characters that the game has to offer. Keep in mind that this list is just for fun and really serves no practical purpose whatsoever because you can't change characters in the original game, and that's what this ranking is for, the main storyline in the SNES version. This does not take into account subsequent remakes where all the characters would join up with Cecil at the end of the game. So again, we're just looking at how they contribute to the team while they are naturally in your party. Hopefully that clears some things up before we get started. Number 12, Cid. I've mentioned Cid before in my top 10 worst characters list. There I said that he was the worst of the cast, and I still stand by that assessment. I don't care how often you mention the worthless Earth Hammer that you get to use for about 10 minutes of battles and one boss fight before this moron falls to his doom 5 minutes later. His accuracy is terrible, and the damage range on his hammers are ridiculously random. He could do like 300 damage one turn and then like 2 on the next. It makes no sense. And speaking of making no sense, they gave him the Peep ability, used to identify elemental weaknesses, which is only good for mages. But the only mage in your group at the time is Tella, who can barely cast anything anyway with his paltry MP. He's trash. I said what I said. Number 11, Fusoya. When I was a kid, I used to think that the Lunarian was so cool, but after replaying recently, I've come to the realization that he's utterly pointless. You already have Rosa and Radia, the best mages of the game, so why would you ever want another Tella knockoff to drag around, especially this late in the game? Yeah, the guy has access to black and white magic, which is helpful, but he's only with you for one dungeon, and most of the time he's just a dead puddle in there. Then, to top things off, the CPU boss that you have to face in there has wall up, so he really can't contribute to the offense like Radia can with her summons. I guess he might have had a use as another caster if you want to take him up against Bahamut, but seriously, I would rather have Kain. Number 10, Edward. Everybody probably expected Edward to be number 12 on this list, but let's look at the facts. He's only with you at the very beginning of the game, and there, as a secondary attacker and supporter, he actually shines. The status ailments that he can inflict actually stick, and he can attack from the back row. He's also the perfect white mage of the group for the Antlion's Cave when you don't have access to Rosa. By the time that you get to Mount Colts, he's pretty competent. I'm not saying that he's the best by any stretch of the imagination, but for the very limited amount of time that you have him, he's actually useful if you use him correctly. Also, Edward is like the bomb.com during the postgame and the subsequent remakes, but again, we aren't talking about those here. Number 9, Poram. The twins join and tragically leave you at the same time. However, during their stay, Poram, the white mage, is infinitely less useful than her feisty black mage brother. The reason for this is twofold. One, healing just isn't all that necessary in these earlier battles, so she's reduced to either attacking with white magic, which is very inefficient, using the heal staff, or just whiffing with her bow. The second issue that she has is the existence of Tella, who not only has all of the white magic spells, but with white magic being cheaper to cast than black magic, the sage is more than likely going to be your healer because of his limited NP pool. So while she is nice to have around, she's just not all that useful in her tenure. Number 8, Tella. Speaking of the sage, here he is. Tella is unique in the fact that he's one of only 2 characters who join you at separate moments in the story, but do not stick around with you until the end. First joining in the underground waterway, he's a godsend. You can stick the frail old bastard in the front row and let him tank as well as blow everything to smithereens with his massive 90 MP pool. However, whenever he rejoins later on Mount Ordeals, he's much less useful, even after regaining all of his old spells with his horde stats and the aforementioned 90 MP, which isn't all that hot anymore. Now that level 2 spells cost 15 MP a pop, he really can't be on the offense all that much. I guess he's odd insofar as he's great at first, but whenever he rejoins, he's a huge letdown. Once the twins leave the party, he's just going to be a Cure 2 bot. Number 7. Edge. The Prince is easily the worst endgame character, even with dual welding. He's still not going to deal as much damage as Cecil and Kain. And his magic? Yeah, no. I mean, he can steal, but honestly, it's not all that hot here, and his equipment draw is pretty bottom of the barrel. He's unable to equip the heavy armor of the other boys, or the great female-only stuff that the girls get. As a ninja, you would think that his speed and evasion would be top-notch, but I really don't see that much of a disparity between him and the rest of the party as far as all that's concerned. Throwing is nice, I guess, but I really only do use it against bosses, and his HP is only on par with Rosa's. And honestly, when he inevitably dies in the final battle, he is last on my list of people to revive. Number 6. Palem. We're really getting down to the good characters now. Palem is definitely more useful than his goody two-shoes sister or that old has-been Tella. By the time that you make it to the Earth Fiend, he should have access to fire too, so he easily becomes the strongest character in that fight. And with high natural MP growth, he's able to cast his level 2 spells pretty often, unlike Tella. So his fire spells carry you through the mountain, whereas ice and lightning spells become a godsend in Baron's Waterway. While his sister just sits there on the sidelines, and Tella does join in the fun for a few of the harder fights, Palem is a one-man wrecking crew during his time with the team. Number 5. Kain. Dragoons have always been a strange class to me. On one hand, they're very strong tanks with HP, attack, and defense up there with the best of them, but then, to use his most powerful attack, he not only has to wait for the jump to land, but he has to leave the screen too, rendering his tanking completely useless. Yeah, he's strong and up there with Cecil, but while the Paladin has utility in the use of white magic menu healing, Kain can just attack and jump. He's very one-note. Granted, he's better than Edge, with much better average damage output and survivability, but I do just wish that there was more to him. Number 4. Yang. Why couldn't Yang be in our final party? He is, along with Tella, the other party member who joins up with you again, but doesn't go all the way with you to the end. I remember as a kid finding him in the Sylph's Cave, seeing the claws, waking him up, and hoping against hope that he would kick Edge's ass out of the party and join up instead. But that just wasn't the case. Yang has great strength, the ability to easily hit enemies' elemental weaknesses with his claws, he sports a massive pool of HP, and he has access to 3 skills, all of which are useful. In the remakes, Brace and Focus allow him to increase his own strength and defense, and Kick allows him to physically attack all the enemies on the screen. This monk is great, both times that he joins you. Number 3. Radia. First joining up as a child, this girl is extremely fragile, yet versatile. Able to use all 3 types of magic, she can get you out of some sticky situations. When she rejoins as an adult though, she is a one-woman army, able to steamroll entire enemy groups with her elemental summons that don't split damage, as well as her powerful black magic. Special note should be taken to talk about Bio, probably the most powerful spell in the entire Final Fantasy universe. It costs only 20 MP, it's pretty much instant cast, nothing whatsoever resists it, and it deals roughly the same amount of damage as a level 3 spell for 10 less MP, and it inflicts the sap status. She learns it pretty damn early too, and then she can cast it in every single fight that she engages in. I love this bitch. Number 2. Cecil. As a Dark Knight, he's indispensable. Well, at least until he encounters the undead where he's nigh on useless. Once he becomes a paladin, he's much better though. A whole new world of weapons and armor opens up to him, and especially valuable are the swords which deal elemental damage, as well as the armors which absorb it. In addition to being a great tank, he can cast low-level white magic, and cover allies in poor health. The big guy has super high HP and the best physical stats in the game. But at the end of the day, he's just an attacker, and there are plenty of attackers. That's why he's number 2. Without him, yeah, the game would be much harder. However, it would be downright impossible without our number 1, Rosa. As the game's best white mage, when Rosa is in your party, you can survive anything thrown your way. With tons of MP as well as decent HP for survivability, she's the crux of every strategy. From the eternally useful and ridiculously broken slow spell that works on every single enemy in the entire game, to fast for increasing the damage that all of your fighters do, to wall for surviving against Ashura and Bahamut, to life 2 and cure 4 for quickly getting your party members back on their feet during the hardest boss fights. When she's not busy controlling the outcome of the battle, she's actually able to contribute offensively too, because her aim command gives her 100% accuracy with her bows. Then, when those start to wane, she gets the white spell, which deals damage on par with Radia's offensive spells. Anybody can attack, but only Rosa can keep the team alive, and that's why she's number 1. Well, that's it for the characters of Final Fantasy IV Ranked. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and how would you rank the characters? Do you agree or disagree? And if you like this video and what I do here on the channel, please consider supporting me on Patreon. The link to it can be found in the video description. If you like this, please like, comment, and subscribe, and have a good day.